What if there are 3 people in the same room who claim to be Jesus Christ? Psychiatric experiments, the 24th of October. Many ignorant people believe that if a person thinks that he is someone else, then he runs, walks, crawls along the gloomy corridors of mental hospitals shouting, "Know everything. I am Napoleon Bonaparte." Usually, patients do not repeat about their alter ego all the time. However, they may mention it, for example, during an acquaintance. Back in 1959, the American psychologist Milton Rokeach came up with an idea. What if we bring together in one place 3 people who consider themselves the sons of God Jesus Christ? Maybe they can heal each other. To make this sudden thought come true, Rokeach received a grant and began searching for the Jesus. As a result, he received them. 3 patients with schizophrenia were brought to his clinic in Ypsilanti: Clyde Benson, Joseph Castle, and Leon Gabor. Leon is the child of a family of religious fanatics. After serving in the army, he returned home to his mother, and by the age of 32 he rode a roof. Voices in his head assured him that he was Jesus Christ. He was quiet and calm, until one day voices whispered to him that it was necessary to worship Jesus, he himself, that is, and not symbols, which is, in principle, true, but Leon was caught destroying crosses in the house, after which he was sent for compulsory treatment. Joseph was observed by doctors for more than 20 years, was meek and calm, was married and had 2 children. He ended up in the clinic because of the onset of paranoia. He believed that everyone wanted to poison him. Already in the hospital, Castle began to consider himself the Son of God. Clyde Benson rode the roof of the prison, where he got because of alcoholism caused by his daughter's refusal to communicate with him. At 24, Clyde's wife and parents died. Rokeach tried to arrange the life of the Jesus so that they spent as much time as possible together. They were put in the same room, seated together in the dining room, and even in the laundry room the men worked side by side. Also, the doctor and his assistants constantly held general sessions for Clyde, Joseph, and Leon and monitored their behavior throughout the day. However, it all went wrong right away. At the first meeting, the Jesus quarreled. Each tried to prove that he was the real one, and the rest were inventors and imposters. Moreover, if Joseph and Clyde were arguing, spraying saliva and reviled each other with all sorts of bad words, then Leon hid in a corner and watched with horror. After the meeting ended, he called it psychological torture. When Gabor arrived at the clinic, he showed his handwritten business card, which read, Dr. Domino Dominorum and Rex Rexarum, Dr. Simplis Christian Pua Mentalis, reincarnation of Jesus of Nazareth. A few months later, in January 1960, Leon changed his name. Now his calling card read, Dr. Righteous Ideal Dung Sir Simplis Christian Pua Mental Doc. Such a beginning did not stop Dr. Rokeach. He continued to arrange general meetings. During them, everything went on peacefully, while the doctor talked with patients about childhood, hobbies, favorite food, and even politics. But as soon as Milton raised the topic of religion, and away we go. There were even fights. Once Leon said that Adam was black, he immediately flew in the face from Clyde. However, rather contrary to the efforts of Rokeach, relations between men soon began to improve. They calmly talked about everyday topics and fell silent as soon as the doctor hinted at the Holy Trinity. They shared tobacco, stood up for each other when other patients tried to mock someone. But none of them gave up the idea that he was Jesus. Everything went clearly against the doctor's plans. Rokeach decided to work with each of the patients separately. Leon Gabor was sure that outside the walls of the clinic he had a wife, whom he called Madame Yeti. The doctor began to send him letters on her behalf. The very first Leon declared a vacant, while communicating with Milton, looked extremely depressed, refusing to explain the reasons for his mood. Rokeach was not embarrassed by this. He continued to write letters on behalf of the wife, gradually adding to the messages the jargon used by Leon in conversations. Leon even began to answer and obey the advice of an imaginary wife. When Madame Yeti put $1 in the letter, the man burst into tears. However, as soon as the wife wrote that Gabor, not the fact that Jesus, Leon immediately interrupted the correspondence. It is noteworthy that Leon very rationally justified his unwillingness to continue to communicate with the force. He said that the letters were probably written by one of the patients of the clinic, who wants to laugh at him, and they constantly bullied the Jesus in the clinic, and he was not going to give her such a chance. The persistent doctor's next step was to try to put Leon before a choice between his delusional ideas and love. To do this, he invited a new employee to the clinic, Miss Anderson. She surrounded the patient with attention, listened to Leon, laughed at his jokes, discussed with him the past conversations of the Jesus with the doctor, supported him in every possible way. Leon was at first perked up, but his interest soon faded. He announced that Miss Anderson had been sent to him in order to persuade him to cheat on his wife. He broke off the conversation with the words, "Truth is my friend. I have no other friends." Clyde Rokeach decided to put pressure on the authority of the head of the hospital. With his permission, Milton wrote letters on behalf of the manager, periodically investing in the money that could be spent in the clinic's shop. Clyde answered them and was clearly sympathetic to his pen pal. But at some point, Milton, on behalf of the head of the clinic, prescribed Benson a supposedly new drug, of course, a placebo, and when the drug was stopped, Clyde broke off communication and sent an angry message to President Kennedy demanding that Clyde be released from the hospital. Dr. Rokeach completed his experiment just 2 years later, in 1961. Absolutely nothing was achieved. Judging by the man's emotional state, the experience not only failed miserably, but also caused serious harm. In 1964, Milton publishes the book The Three Christs in Ypsilanti. She was harshly criticized for her attitude towards patients and the abundance of unethical manipulations to which the psychologist resorted. 20 years later, Milton Rokeach admitted that he was wrong. In the epilogue to the 1984 reprint of his book, he wrote, "Although I was unable to free the three Jesus from their delusional delusions, they helped me to successfully heal myself. They forced me to give up the belief that I have divine power and is able to heal them by interfering with their daily life. The moral is simple. Even in the name of science, you shouldn't play God." This is already understood by the doctor, who has changed thanks to the patients who participated in his strange psychiatric experience. You must understand now. Until then, see you again. That's all, folks. Author Alexander Garachev.